Namaste. Good day, everyone. Happy Thursday. Hope you are doing great and amazing. Namaste, namaste. I love you, I love you, I love you. I love you, I love you. I love you. I love you. Can you all repeat after me? I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. Put your hand on your heart and repeat after me. I love you. 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 Good morning, glorious George.
Hi, Sudi. It's very nice to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's so great to see you. Haven't seen you for a long time, George.
It's been quite a while. I'm just going to get this set up. Hang on. I'm down in Fort Lauderdale, which is lovely.
Oh.
Which is having an amazing time. A lot of very interesting new projects are emerging down here.
Nice, nice, nice. I lived in Fort Lauderdale for a little over 4 years.
Yeah, I've never really spent time here before. I mean, I've been on the west coast of Florida for the last 2 weeks doing some work, and then Miami, and now I'm here just for the next 4 or 5 days, very close to the beach and collaborating with some wonderful people. It's beautiful. Parts of it are very nice. It's very quiet where I am. It's kind of like it's very peaceful.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So what's going on in Fort Lauderdale? Enlighten us, George. What is happening there?
Well, I mean, what we're doing, I'm doing a lot of healing work. I've got a lot of, new clients, patients down here, for the astrology, sound therapy, but there's some new collaborations coming in, which are very exciting to do with water and consciousness. I mean, you know this as well as any of us, better perhaps, is that there are new technologies coming in for humanity at this time. And in some ways, this is Saturn in Pisces. Saturn goes into Pisces in the spring of 2023. We're going to see the emergence of many new forms of technologies which have hitherto been hidden for many other reasons. And, everything is frequency. Healing takes place on a frequency level. So once you apply the right frequency to the body, and especially through water, water's a conductor, and we are 70+% water. And once we have not just structured water, but really what's called explosion water, it's the way the molecules are put together. It's not just H2O, it's actually H1O1 to H3O3. It's a bit complicated, but the point is once you utilize that type of water, inflammation is amazingly reduced. So then, of course, you think of the membrane wall and the lipids that naturally are formed on the wrong side of the membrane wall is why people get fat because of inflammation. Suddenly you can start to cleanse that. I mean, that's revolutionary. And so we are going to be able to help shift consciousness just by the very fact that humans, for the first time in eons, are going to be able to drink proper water.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, a lot. So I already did a live about prediction on 2023, and I know it's going to be extremely exciting. But the way I put it, I ask Stephen. Stephen is another friend of mine. He lives in Chicago, and he's a Vedic astrologist. And I asked him to join us on this live. And he said, Sudi, I know that you like to be very positive, but I don't have a lot of good things to say about 2023. So he backed up. He decided not to come. But the way I see it, George, is that although it's going to start with a huge bangs, and we know 6 planets are moving and shifting, as you said. It's going to be very interesting that Saturn is going to be coming in Pisces. And the way I was seeing it is like Pisces is, as we know, is a water sign, and Piscean are very deep, right? So I said, as Saturn is going to move into Pisces, Saturn is all about structure. So we're going to all dive really, really deep in, and a lot of things are going to be exposed. I mean, 2023, I feel like, oh my God, I don't know, to be scared, to be excited, or how to feel. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, when it comes to this term exposure or disclosure, really, when we look back since, let's arbitrarily say, the timeline shift of 2016, let's just use that date. I mean, one can go back to the timeline of 2012, and they're connected. You see a drip drip effect of humans waking up, but what you see with it as well is certain souls are unable until a certain point to awaken. They're unable to question their belief system in a way. The MK Ultra or the mass formation psychosis, the cognitive dissonance, we can describe it many ways, is hard and it's very deep. So what's happening is every single year, every month, more and more people are awakening to our potential, our reality. And for those who've already awoken, it's hard because it requires patience, compassion. Those very important Christed concepts and attributes need to be very much required for those people on the side of helping awake people into consciousness. But I do see 2023 definitely the floodgates, to use the water metaphor of Pisces. Saturn structure. Saturn likes to be in Capricorn. Saturn likes to be in Aquarius. That's his domain. He's now going into an area that he's not comfortable in. So the high expression, if I may explain this to your followers, a high expression of Saturn in Pisces is structure, architectural foundation within the cosmic, within the cosmos and psyche, within the psychological, spiritual, musical sphere of putting foundations, roots down into frequency. At a low expression, it is probably being totally deluded by and having everything turned upside down, emotional breaks, where Saturn is basically disrupted and people's worlds are turned upside down. Now, of course, we call that rock bottom, and humans, me included, have all had to go through that cycle. It's the hero's journey that I've spoken about a lot, is across the threshold into the dark night of the soul, the death and resurrection concept of the Scorpio archetype. And we've just had that Scorpio full moon, which still continues to play out, the eclipse cycle. And so I see 2023 as just a continuation of it. But really, in some ways, it's actually the Pluto in Capricorn now that is really important, because it's only now, as we speak today, Sudi, that we are in the exact birthplace of Pluto in Capricorn when the United States was first birthed in 1776. So we're completing a cycle now of really birthing the Second Republic of the United States. And that's painful. There's a lot of death as well as resurrection.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. So what I'm feeling out is someone asked, like, why would it be scary if it's a very great year? Because it's just like the universe is kind of moving us more and more towards this part that, like, we don't have a choice anymore, if I can say, do I want to wake up or not? Because, a lot of people are like, we are like exposed to so much news, and so much of politics is coming out. And it just feels like the universe is telling us that you don't have a choice to be asleep any longer. Like, that choice is being taken away from us. There's only one way to go, and to choose to awaken. Because so many people don't want to, it is basically is to their advantage to act out to be asleep. And 2023 is not going to just allow anybody to do that. So it's very hard. And there's this expansion. Actually, today, one of my one of my assistants, he was telling me, I have this weird feeling. And funny enough, he's a Piscean, George. And he's like, I have this weird feeling that inside of me is expanding, but I feel very vulnerable and very scared. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I think that's absolutely right. I mean, there is the paradox. We do live in a world of polarity. And I mean, let's talk frequency. So when you look at the fear frequency, it's around 70, 72 hertz, that vibration. And when we come out of that, it goes up more into the 400-500s, okay? I mean, there are many ways to access this. Many of us talk about the Schumann resonance and, you know, the photon light that's coming in, our gravitational fields are shifting. We have to work through the fear. We're all going to have fear. That's very human, and there's nothing wrong with it. But together, we can alchemize it. And, you know, positive people like you holding a candle towards the hope, towards the future, is we co-create that future. That's part of the human experience, is in a way allowing old Saturn. You see, Saturn in some ways is the corrupt Saturn, is the old system. Allow it to wither on the vine. And instead, you, me, all of us together, we co-create something new. We give birth to something new. That is the creative urge of mankind. And that's something which I as an artist, I feel very, very, I feel very important, and to be able to share those ideas, those gifts, which are universal for all of us in our own unique way. Every soul incarnate is an artistic, creative soul. It's a question of finding the soul contract, finding the best way to express that. And society, old Saturn, has genuinely not sought to allow humans to flourish. The new paradigm that is emerging, this is going to be Pluto into Aquarius starting next year and full on in 2024. You're going to see a total breakdown of Aquarian, which is fixed belief systems. You're going to see Pluto, death and resurrection, transformation of all the religions. I mean, bar potentially Buddhism, because the old religions, at the end of the day, they have been so distorted. And yet, for myself, I'm a great believer in the Christed light. What does that mean? It's 5D consciousness. It's the vibration of saying, we have the ability to create something which is authentic to us individually, but also going to collectively help us grow. It's out of a frequency of love and bi-directional co-creativity, as opposed to dog eats dog, the selfish gene of scarcity, where we have to protect. And already, as I share those words are of a lower frequency. And when I share those fearful words, look at the body. What happens to us somatically? We shift into a lower density, and that's how we can be controlled. When we bring it up through the heart, the lower chakras, into the heart, we alchemize it. And of course, we have to do protocols. We have to clean the middle eye. We have to stop using artificial fluoride and fluoride and artificial chlorine. You know, there are two types of chlorine. We've got to understand how to decalcify the pineal gland. We've got to understand how to open up the crown to source. These are very important protocols to access our divinity as human beings.
Yeah. Two things I wanted to add in there by what you were saying. Number one is fear. I did a reel the other day, and I said, what if overcoming our fear would be our best medicine? And I know it's right now, and especially in 2023, a lot of the fear, basically the collective energy is dissatisfaction, you know, wrongdoing and all this. And I said, there's a lot of fear also is coming up. But what if each one of us could, although I'm afraid of doing this or unknown or doing something differently, I would overcome that fear. And that would be the medicine and the cure that I was looking for. And about the frequency, number two, I was feeling, I did a live last week, and I was talking about this. I said, what I'm reading from the collective consciousness, the energy is like around maybe 125 to 130. And if we look at the energy of love, which we all know is 500 awakening and enlightenment is 500 and above. And if you are vibrating at 125 to 130 right now, look at the gap between where we are and where we could be originally to enter the fifth dimension and higher consciousness. So what's going on right now, George, as we're looking everything that's going around in China, in Iran, in Russia, in Ukraine, and all of this stuff, people are collectively, or people are angry. And I said, behind anger is always fear, right? So again, we're coming back to this thing that I said, if we kind of imagine 2023, because there is so much revolution and riots is going on, you know, in the east side and that stuff. And I said, if we could imagine in our mind's eyes that we are all coming together by year 2023, and the gender is going to be going away. Now, Americans, Iranians, Arabs, Indians, everyone are coming together. And if we can imagine each one of us, instead of having anger, imagining that all of us are coming together.
Yeah.
And we're walking together side by side. Even the winter and the cold, and nothing can touch us, because it's all about unity and being united.
So that's all great, and I agree with everything, but we've got to really embrace righteous anger. What is anger? Righteous anger is the fact that humans have been deceived. This is the elephant in the room. The elephant, and most people, certainly in the New Age movement, are not interested in discussing the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is why are we being deceived? Because the systems, Saturn, the systems, do not support we the people. I pray anyone disagree with me on that. Give me evidence where Saturn, the system, supports we the people. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't matter whether it's in medical, in educational, in economic, in political, in cultural, across the board. Pluto in Capricorn, death and resurrection, Pluto, Capricorn, institutions. Sometimes astrology is very, very literal. And Pluto in Capricorn means the destruction of these old institutions because they have been corrupted. We don't need to debate now when they got corrupted. It's always slippery, takes many, many, many decades. And, you know, we could have the great galactic conversation about the fall of Atlantis, or we can just go back to the last Pluto in Capricorn cycle of 1776. It doesn't matter. The point is these systems are spent. So the fear and the anger comes out of the fact, on a subconscious level, human beings know they've been lied to. They've been grossly deceived. And the other elephant in the room, of course, is their own humanity. You know, I'll give you an example, and I'm going to talk in allegory because we're on a site like Instagram. We're allowed to have my body, my choice. So women are able to decide what they do to their bodies when it comes to abortions on the one hand, and then we're expected to roll up our sleeves and be forced to be injected on the other. That's an inconsistency. That's one of the great elephants in the room. Now, if people again don't like that, that's okay, but they're suffering severe cognitive dissonance, and they're deeply entrenched in the program, which is The Matrix. That film, The Matrix, is a documentary, and we all know that. So there are some 3D things that need to be sorted out in order for us to ascend. And how I look at it for me is I dance constantly in my life between the 3 and the 5D, meaning I'm very 3D. In the last 20, 50 seconds, I have been talking 3D stuff with you. And then other times I will talk high-dimensional galactic conversations. This is planet Earth. This isn't planet air or fire or water. This is planet Earth. It's dense. We have to change the systems that run the density to fit in vibrationally with where humans are now. And not all humans are there yet. But trust me, when we can have the systems that allow us to flourish, it's going to feel like heaven on earth. And that's why the water is so important for me. That's why the healing modalities, whether it's scalar wave, light frequencies, you know, different forms of Kundalini yoga, integrative, holotropic breath work. It doesn't matter the system you use. The point is we have to use these tools, especially when we are learning, when we are discovering, what the economic system really has been about, what the protocol of depopulation and transhumanism has really been about. And once we actually understand that, we are able to alchemize it and move forward. But righteous anger is part of it. Brazil is a great case in point of righteous anger. And anyone doing their own research knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So, George, if we want to give people some tools, well, first of all, now we know we're collectively dissatisfied, we're angry, and once in 3 months' time, when Saturn start moving into Pisces, and it's going to deep underneath the ocean, a lot of fishes and different species are going to come up that we're not even familiar with, right? We haven't even seen them. So when all this unknown is becoming exposed, when we really understand who is ruling us, what are the governments about, and all this dissatisfaction start coming up, what tools would you give people? How would we go about it? How would we be able to come from an empowering place rather than fear-based?
Okay, so a couple of things. Firstly, I want to salute you, honor you with the way you talk in beautiful allegory. You're very Venus about the water. You're really intimating about Antarctica and disclosure. You're really intimating about previous hybrid civilizations, Atlantean connections that we have with other mythological creatures from the past. I love all that, and I very much feel connected to that. And Antarctica is definitely something Piscean, and is the stuff that is slowly being uncovered about what really has been going on down there since the Second World War is going to shock the world. And for those more awake, it's very fascinating. And here's the thing, my friends, people listening to me, people who either know me or who have never come across me before. I am a kid here. I don't pretend to know anything. I love the freedom in that to be authentically, honestly exploring stuff, expanding my bandwidth. I always use this analogy, being British. For years when we were back in England, we used to listen to Capital Radio, which was 95.8 FM. And you tuned it a little higher, you get a bit of static to 95.9, you could just about hear it, and a bit lower to 95.7, you could hear it. Beyond that, it was gone. What's happening now, we're expanding the frequency. So the higher vibration is going up. It's very exciting. And we really are ascending to higher dimensions, but also we're witnessing the lower, the more what we call the satanic, the less integrated. Okay, think of the children. We all know what we're talking about if we're awake. And what we're having to do is alchemize it, but we can't ignore it. This is the thing. Back to the 3D. We have to witness it. By witnessing it, we're able to alchemize it. If we ignore it and pretend it doesn't happen, and we just continue on, we're not doing the work. It's called the shadow work. Carl Jung, the father of depth psychology, an amazing man, the student of Freud who went way beyond Freud, way beyond, explored this in great detail. And I implore you, like I've done myself, explore the shadow. What does that mean? So obviously, back to your question on Pisces, is we are going to learn more about the depths of whether it's Antarctica, what's under the ocean, more about our planet. And we're going to be putting more structures down in place to go deeper into the metaphysical, the Piscean age. Well, we're coming out of the Piscean age, but into the age of Aquarius, which is really the individual being celebrated within the collective, and the individual being able to embrace his or her humanity within the collective, rather than the negative of the individual being tyrannically controlled by artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if I wanted to, the way I would go about it is, I think knowledge is really power. So when we know what's coming up, it's going to help me. Like if we all, and I somehow, George, I don't know, but my feeling is that 2023 is going to be affecting the throat chakra. And as we all know, throat chakra is all about expression and being heard. So I was telling my followers, I said, start working on your throat chakra, because there are a lot of people, you know, especially when you come from Middle East and that stuff, that they have been very suppressed, and they don't have a voice. And as you're seeing what's going on right now, George, you see what's happening in Iran. It's like what I was expecting, what I was talking about from a few years ago, that women are going to be the upfront of this new movement. And for the first time, we're seeing that young girls, young women in Iran are the one who are front field. I mean, they started this whole thing and they're standing by. So what I'm saying is that a lot of time will change in a way that women are becoming more empowered, and the voices, if we felt like we've been shy, or we cannot talk, or we get very anxious when we're going to talk, or we never been heard, or we're able to express ourselves. 2023 is, to me, it feels like it's a lot about our throat chakra. What I'm seeing, yeah.
Let's talk about that. It's very interesting because, you know, we get to this information differently. And Mars in Gemini, because of the retrograde cycle, Mars has actually been in Gemini already for 3 months, and has got another 2.5, 3 months to play out, which is phenomenal. Gemini is throat, communication, ruled by Mercury. Mars is the passion, back to the, in a way, the sacred masculine of standing in. And I mean, when I say the sacred masculine, it doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, embracing the yang energy of direct, honest, authentic communication. And I actually have my own Mars in Gemini. And Mars in Gemini is currently playing out on the planetary scale, and it will continue right through to March 25th. So this is a time at the high expression of it, which is the most integrative, is to stand in your truth and obviously communicate your truth. But like with the 4 gates of speech, can it be said kindly? Is it the right time? And is it necessary? So you speak your truth, but you consider, is it necessary? Is it the right time? And can it be said kindly? And that's powerful, because when you speak your truth directly, you stand free, because you're no longer compromising to please. I mean, empaths, and I suspect most people on our channels, are more on the empathic rather than the narcissistic side. It is what it is. You know, we feel very deeply. I have a lot of planets in water. It's intense, because we're naturally a people pleasers, because we want to help people. But the Mars in Gemini asks us to, in this sense, for us empaths, to be strong and clear in what we're going to communicate. So when we communicate correctly, authentically in our truth, we start to communicate well, and it feels good. And of course, you know, as a sound therapist, I do teach a lot of chanting and toning, and one can use, you know, to you know, to activate the larynx and the throat chakra for those people who are struggling, you know, to maybe people who don't have so much fire or air in their chart. Those yang elements need to practice more the throat chakra. And of course, those who tend to have too much air and fire, they may have to practice more on earth, you know, the perinatum, or the Saturn chakra, which is the base, to ground, you know. So everyone's got to practice where they're not so strong.
Yeah. So I guess in order for us to be fully expressive, we need to add a little bit more courage to this recipe, right?
That's
so
courage. That's absolutely right. Mars will help you here, because Mars is Gemini. That's courage. It's your willpower, the sacral. I'm sorry, it's the you know, the belly button. It's the God, I'm losing my mind here. It's the
it's the humidity in Fort Lauderdale.
No, yeah, but it's the third chakra. It's the what do I mean? The sacral, the one above it. It's the
sacral after sacral.
No,
okay.
It's the one where willpower is. It's the solar plexus.
Solar plexus.
Mars, in some ways, is for me, it's connected to the solar plexus. It's the drive to push forward, to manifest. But of course, the high expression, it's for our consciousness. It's for love. You see, we're pushing forward to defend the family, to defend truth, to defend we the people, to defend freedom, as opposed the fear would be control. Because I'm frightened, I'm going to do what the government tells me, and then being an unconscious, willing perpetuator of crimes, as opposed to no, standing in your truth, standing in your freedom. And also you mentioned one other thing which is very important, is how do we do it, you asked. Well, we do it with community. The more of us who can come together and support each other, it gives us so much more strength. Humans are sociable creatures. We need the support of others, of friendships, of our loves, of our family, of our children, of our parents.
Yeah. What do you think about this, George? I believe like most of us are so, we don't realize how connected we are to the collective energy. And how how would you teach people how to be aware when they are, whatever they're feeling? Number one, I'm feeling it, and is, for instance, like I said, is anger. But I was also saying, remember that anger is the upfront. Don't get fooled by the anger. But if you get a little bit deeper into anger, you realize it's sadness. So what we have to work on is, what am I sad about? Is it something about me that I'm sad about? Is it something about other people, what they're doing that is making me and feeling me sad? So recognizing what we're feeling, because in these 30 some years that I've been doing coaching, I realized that people don't really know what it is that they have to get work on. And if you're thinking that you have to work on your anger, then you're going sidewalk. You're not touching or reaching out the root cause, which is sadness. Instead of working on your sadness, what am I sad about? Then you want to work on your anger, and you want to take a cold shower, but it's not going to be because the cause is not being worked on or touched by. So how do you think we should come to find out really what is the root cause of what we're feeling?
So I think one has to, it's like proper medicine. It's such a case by case. I mean, I work a lot with frequency, with scalar wave technology, and when I'm obviously for legal reasons, I'm not saying I'm diagnosing situations because of the corrupt medical system, but when people come to me for healings, I am really tailor making the using frequency based on their aura, their energetics. It's wholly unique. So what I mean by that is some human beings will feel somatically the stress and fear or the grief of the collective, and it won't be their own. They may interpret it sadly as their own grief, but a lot of the times for deep empaths, people especially who have a lot of Pisces, Cancer and Scorpio, will be picking up collective feelings, again, water, feelings, emotions of the collective, where others won't be tuned in at all to the collective. They can be totally bypassing it and just living in their own parallel universe. So for me, it's tailor-making, seeing where people are at. It's why the elements are so important when I read people's astrological charts, because it's the elemental makeup that tells me where they're going to be more successful and less successful. So understanding that not always everyone's dealing with their own grief, they could be picking up the collective. And then the question is how do they process that grief? You're right that fear underneath it is grief. Because what is grief? Grief in extremis is suicide. Anger in extremis is murder. I'll say that one more time. Grief in extremis is suicide. Anger in extremis is murder. Okay, when we understand that frequency, that bandwidth, and we all have the ability. You see, for me, who practices mysticism, I know that those two frequencies are totally within my being in the 3D matrix, absolutely. And part of the alchemy is to own that, witness it, and alchemize it. So I go probably a little bit more towards the grief as a human soul. That's my thing. There's a deep sadness of the less integrated versions of human behavior. It's always been quite peculiar to me, but I'm not going to get into why from a galactic perspective, because that's another day with probably a slightly different audience. But I think we have to be very honest with where we're at in our awakening process. So if it's about grief, community is very important, to share that grief, to realize that you're not alone. Grief in particular is loneliness. Grief in particular is, woe is me, there's no one who shares this, I'm isolated. And you coil up, you see it in the body, it bends over, the spine gets bent, and you sleep in a ball. And I've had quite a few patients over the years who have severe grief, and most of it's because of they've been abused in many different reasons, whether it's MK Ultra or just family abuse. I think it requires deep compassion, and for the healers, the light workers, the way showers, to step up, and for societies to support the process of healing. I mean, at the end of the day, with the Great Reset becomes the Great Awakening, one triggers the other, meaning the ability for souls who are there to be in service, to be able to give the tools, be given the tools to actually help in the healing process. You see, up until this point, real healers have been, it's like the women in the forest. We called it the witches in the 1600s. They were all burnt because the energy was destroyed. I mean, we all know this. So that's one of the elephants in the room, is allowing for that feminine energy of healing, of integrative science, arts, alchemy, to come back to the forefront. And that is what the Hippocratic Oath is. That is what medicine really is. And we have a cancerous, demonic system based on money and power, and basically depopulation. I mean, it is what it is. If people don't like that, well, then you've got more work to do, you see. So we have to, work on our grief, and then the anger. If we've got anger, if it's righteous anger, then you're going to go out in the Uranus, the principle of the innovator, and use Mars as an Archangel Michael, as a sword for justice, for truth, to protect the children, to protect the mother, to protect the daughter, to protect what is weak but beautiful. But if we've got an unintegrated Mars, we're going to go out and slash. Oh no, you can't believe in that. That's all conspiracy. Oh no, what's the difference between conspiracy and truth? It's 6 months. So a less integrated Mars is going to be one who's not going to want to do the work, who's just going to slash at anything new and basically debunk anything that is pushing towards love, because they're in fear. They don't want the system to change because they haven't done the work. So then we have to be very patient with those and find new language to pull those people into the soft, the yin, and say, your ability is vast with your martial qualities, your big sword. Come in, come and sit down, and let's get that big sword out, using it in a beautiful, loving, constructive way.
So sometimes I feel like the first step is awareness of what is going on. And if we can always use awareness, if we know that awareness is all around us, and we can use awareness itself to clear whatever it is. So basically, if we can imagine that awareness is like a magic gold thing that's going to clear out any energies or impurities or any obstacles or whatever we are dealing with, can everyone right now imagine awareness as a tools, as a magic tools, and whatever it is, whatever you're experiencing right now, just keep in mind that you can always ask awareness, the same way as we asked Angel Michael to come and clear our space, and we announce that I don't allow any other energy enters my aura except Angel Michael. How about if we use awareness the same way that we ask or command awareness to come, and then see in the light of awareness how anything can change. So for instance, coming back to one of my assistants, when I told you, he said today, I have this really odd feeling. I'm happy, but I'm not unhappy, or I'm happy, but it's just like I keep questioning myself. Is this happiness? Is this really happiness? Everything is going under examination to see what it is. And then I told him, I said, imagine if you feel an expansion of not knowing, because the mind is always confused us. Is it this feeling or is it that feeling? Do I feel expanded? Is it a good place or is it a bad place to feel? I said, what about if you use awareness, bring that awareness into cluttered mind or unclarity? Do you think we can use this as a
So
tool and see what happens?
what I love about when you bring in, you see every word has a vibration. So when you talk about awareness, it's more Neptunian, it's more watery, it's also more galactic. So again, the frequency shifts. You started before to talk about anger. And so it's a martial quality of righteous justice. With the thing, awareness, it's got a quality of Jupiter and Neptune. Mm-hmm. It is reflective. It's yin. And so it allows us, you can hear even in my voice, I'm reflecting that vibration of psychic ability. I'll give you an example. Some of us, many people, heal society behind the scenes through prayer, through active meditation prayer, and accessing the galactics, the Christed lights, different ancestors, spirit guides, whomever we pull in a Raphael, moving away from Archangel Michael now, but almost towards a Raphael healing of increasing the Schumann resonance. And in some ways, this is more resonant with your archetype, Sudi.
Yeah.
And you know, it's interesting when you have me on your show, because I dance very much between the two, and I own that. I think what you're doing so beautifully is you're trying to encourage people in the sense of the higher mind, which is the spirit, is to tune in through prayer and through a contemplative practice to aim for a higher timeline, which is more Christed, more, if you like, Buddha, Siddhartha. It's all the same thing, really. It's based out of a higher resonance of love. And we must do that, but we can only do that, not only, but in order for me, in my view, for it to be integrated, we have to do that as well as witness what's happened on the 3D level. Otherwise, we're not having the full human experience. We can't all be in the cave unaware of what has happened to our civilization, what has happened to the children and to the weak. And, you know, everyone has been abused in a way. We have to alchemize that. But we send positive prayers to those and to all of us so we can raise our vibration in love. So it's a dance between the two for me.
George, how do you feel about, we know Uranus is in sign of Taurus. How do you feel about Jupiter moving into the Taurus?
So Jupiter actually has just come out of Pisces and has moved into Aries. So Jupiter now for the next 6 months is in Aries. In May, end of May, it goes into Taurus. So let me deal with Jupiter in Aries first, if I may, and then I'll go into how that will express itself in Taurus. Jupiter is in Aries. It's going to be almost like a storm. It's going to be a barrage of truth coming out. Yeah. I think, not that you and I have prepared this talk today, but I know full well that, you know, that gives me the license to say, you know, you mentioned disclosure. I mean, Jupiter is truth. It is the wisdom traditions. So at a high expression, it's going to be, wow, uncovering in the Archangel Michael way. Really? Is that really? Was that the reality? We have to, is that the truth? Wow, we have to upgrade our frequency. We have to embrace this new understanding. The world is not the same because now I know this. And before I knew that. That is Jupiter in Aries. It's standing in the truth as a warrior towards wisdom. Now, at a less integrated, it could be the Aries, the martial quality of just expanding but not going deep. Mm-hmm. So it could be, for example, a little superficial. Jupiter does, at a low expression, because it's always benefic, can have an element of superficiality to it. Rose-tinted glasses, not doing the work properly. Now, when Jupiter moves into Taurus, in particular when it conjoins Uranus, Uranus is in Taurus for another 3 years, we're definitely going to see expansion of those Taurus qualities. So expansion of what we eat, change in understanding animal husbandry,
Getting
understanding
fat, George, putting on a lot of weight.
Okay, on a literal sense.
Indulging. Yeah.
Indulging, but I'd like to say expansion of the earth, of the wisdom tradition, understanding how to grow organic crops. I mean, I know this, that I had 20 by 20 foot plot of land, I have 20 acres in my old wellness center upstate New York, but I had a vegetable garden which was 20 feet by 20 feet, and I fed 50 people throughout the summer. If we knew how to use organic farming and understand the soils, and I'm just beginning to understand this, we have enough earth beyond to feed every person on this planet. I know that to be true.
Yeah.
Now, the great masters, the great Saturnian masters don't want that knowledge out there because they want to push us into a great reset. I'm not going to get into that now, but I know on a small plot of land with great love and intention, with sound therapy as well. Don't get me wrong, plants love vibration.
Yeah.
We can grow some pretty amazing stuff. And so that's Jupiter in Taurus, one expression. Taurus, music. I have Taurus on the midheaven. I use a lot of music when I heal. An expansion through the musical, the etheric realms, an expansion through the artistic, tapping in, Taurus rules art, tapping into that which hits the soul through the physical plane. See, Taurus is in the way the pyramids. The highest expression would be Jupiter in Taurus. The low expression would be Saturn in Taurus, meaning Jupiter in Taurus would be turning the pyramids into energetic systems to heal society. Saturn in Taurus, at the low expression, would be using the pyramids like 5G towers to destroy civilization.
So, George, Taurus being the second house, I feel like we're going to have a lot of, this is what I was saying. You correct me if I'm wrong. But I said with Uranus being in Taurus, Uranus is such an unpredicted planet, right? And Jupiter, wherever Jupiter goes, expand whatever quality that sign or that house have. So Taurus being wealth, being bank, being land, being self-worth, and all of that, I said Jupiter is going to go there, and Jupiter wants to expand. More money, you know, more wealth, bigger houses, and all that. On the contrary, Uranus is very unpredictable. So I have a feeling that it's going to be a lot of contrast, like stock market can have like go up and down, because Jupiter said, let's make it bigger. And then Uranus is pulling the rug under our feet. And
I mean, it's brilliant that you brought up this subject. I tend to see, because in the Greek myths, the grandson and the grandfather work quite well together. What I mean is, let's follow the lineage here. You've got Uranus, or Uranus, as we say in England, as grandfather. You've got son, who's Saturn, and don't forget, Saturn castrates his daddy, okay? And Saturn doesn't want unfettered freedom. And then Saturn's son is Jupiter. Now, of course, Saturn ate all his sons, but he luckily, Rhea hid Jupiter, and Jupiter was able to overthrow Saturn. There's the basic myth. Saturn and Uranus work quite nicely together. For me, Uranus is really, yes, it's innovation, yes, it's unexpected events, but it's also new currencies, cryptocurrencies. Yeah. It could be innovation in Taurus areas. So, as you mentioned, currency, new beginnings in earth and food, as we've just mentioned. Jupiter is an expansion of the new economy. Jupiter is the expansion of decentralization. Hear me out here. Saturn is all about centralization. Saturn is all about control, top down. Daddy, I am in charge. Negative daddy, though. I'm going to spank you very hard and incarcerate you if you don't do exactly what I tell you. And if you do more than that, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to eat you. Saturn, that's what he does. The myth never lies. Jupiter is expansion. So Jupiter with Uranus is going to be this amazing power and push towards decentralization. So here's what I'm going to give you a little prediction. is from May and June, July onwards, we're going to see in the United States and the global economy the first real green shoots of decentralization. What will that look like? It's going to be interesting to see. I'm a kid here. I don't know. I'm in the candy shop. This is a lot of fun. I sense we're going to see more gold and silver. I sense we're going to see a cryptocurrency that's going to be backed by gold and silver. It's going to be absolutely anti the IMF, the World Bank, anything institutional which is about top-down control. The Great Reset of Klaus Schwab, of one digital world currency. Absolutely no. They're going to push for it. It's going to be a local coin base. It's going to be decentralized, and it's going to be run by we, the people. That is Jupiter conjunct Uranus and Taurus. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just kind of feel also that Saturn being, I always follow Saturn, what it does, because as we all know, Saturn is
Saturn is Satan. Saturn is Satan. I always like to remind people of the
it's the hardcore teacher, you know. And I feel like in Piscean being so much addiction, I kind of was feeling that Saturn going into Pisces, and it's going to be very difficult because it's about construction. You cannot build your house on a sand. It has to be constructive. But being in a water sign, as I am wondering, there's going to be a lot of confusion, because as we dig in deep under the water, then Saturn wants to know, how are you going to build your house when, go ahead.
You're bringing up brilliant things, if I may jump in here. So Saturn on an Earth base, let's stick to the elements here. Saturn wants to grow in Earth, Capricorn mainly. So it wants to create architectural foundation, okay? Now, Saturn in Pisces is wanting to grow water, emotions. So it's going to, at a high integrated expression, require us to get grounded in our emotions, and to understand that some of these emotions, and Sudi's already brought this up, are not our own. They're from the collective. They're the collective unconscious. Maybe you've picked up that Granny's just died. Humans are innately psychic. Let's be very clear. You know, especially once you clear the fluoride from your pineal gland and you start drinking structured water and you eat organic. I mean, you're gonna turn yourself on. And I'm not being sexual here. I'm being divinatory, galactic. Is you're gonna really turn the light bulbs on. This is super exciting. And so I think Saturn in Pisces is asking us to do the inner spiritual work. Again, alchemy. What is alchemy? It is using the four elements. Let's start from the bottom. What's the lowest element? It's earth. It's yin, okay? And it's a physicality. Earth, physicality. On top of that, water, another yin's element. It is water emotions or feelings, okay? On top of that, you have air. That's a yang sign. And that is air. That is thoughts, intellect. On top of that, you have the plasma, which goes up through it. It's the lightest of the elements. Another yang element, which is fire. And that is spirituality. In order to heal, in order to articulate and express your soul contract in a high expression, you have to do the alchemy. That means integrate the four elements. We have been taught in Western civilization to work just on the earth plane, very deliberately, in order to not allow us to express our own divinity. The New Age is about saying, four elements here, please just engage them. And you do it your way. Take what you like from me, ignore the rest.
Absolutely. George, I wanted to add into the emotional part, because we know Piscean are very emotional. Add the addiction to it. How do you think Saturn feels to be in Pisces? What's going to happen with all our addictions?
Well, it's so funny you mentioned a few. I mean, I love the fact that you're really sort of giving me a cue every time. You see, Saturn in Pisces at the low expression is the blow up of big pharma, because Saturn really is the desire to get everyone addicted to low frequency, I can't even call it medicine, but low frequency pills. So Saturn in some ways is the visualization of the darkness of big pharma. As a result, the alchemy happens and people wake the F up to realize, bring power back home, honey bun. You're in charge of the ship, no one else. And Saturn, by showing you the darkness of pill and all that stuff of big pharma, that the alchemy, the Piscean, is able to switch into a higher frequency. It's very exciting, but it's painful. And until we can make that switch spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, hence the alchemy, it's going to be a hard road. And for those stuck in the old matrix of still thinking that hospital is going to sort you out, giving power away, same thing for giving power to teacher, giving power to politician, giving power to doctor, bring power back to you. Uranus with Jupiter. It's your power. You're captain of the ship, not me, not Sudi, you.
Very nice. George, it was so lovely to see you. We're going to end this live. Well, I'm going to wish you a very Merry Christmas and also a Happy New Year. And probably we get together in a couple of months in New Year and catch up and see were we right and what's happening.
Lots of love and thank you. It's lovely to chat with you.
Love you too. Bye-bye, George. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Bye-bye. Goodbye, everybody. Please, if you haven't followed George, please do so. And a huge, big, Merry Christmas to you. And we see you guys back next week. Bye-bye. Much love. See you guys next week. Bye-bye. Thank you, George.